Thank you. I love it. Well, for the purpose of discussion for this morning, when I use the word relationship, I'm not talking about any particular level. You can think of any kind of relationship, whether it's your spouse, your child, parent, your friend, your partner, whatever it is, your coworker, whatever it is for you. And I say this because there will be something for each of us here when it comes to our relationships. Basically, we are considering a relationship based on love. Therefore, the following example can be applied to any kind of a relationship, even though I'm going to be talking about a married couple. So, if you have a type of relationship that is a bit crunchy right now, you know what I'm talking about when it's crunchy, a little crunchy, you can project this scenario onto your own crunchy relationship. I want you to picture this. Imagine it's Sunday afternoon, you just got home from church, you get into your favorite sweats, your favorite t-shirt, you settle into your favorite chair to watch your favorite football team. And being the good spouse that you are, you decide that you're going to help and fold a load of towels. And so you grab a towel and you're watching your team on television. All of a sudden, your quarterback catches the ball, runs down the field, and oh my God, is 3 yards away from the goal. And you put your towel down on the pile. And as you watch now, you're just like, oh my God, I hope they get a touchdown. And sure enough, they get a touchdown. Yeah, oh wow, yes. And just about that time, your wife walks into the room and she looks at the towel. She pauses for a moment and she says, you know, you're not quite doing that right. Here, I'm going to show you how to fold a towel. You do a tri-fold, and you do it quite like this, and like that. It fits better in the closet. Now, doesn't that look better? And so, you are now at a crossroads. You've got about 1 second to decide what path you're going to take. Now, you can go the high road and say, well, that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to fold it that way from now on. Or, and why is it that we always choose the low road? Why is it that we choose suffering here? Or you can say, well, that's mildly interesting, but I can show you how to fold towels. And now you put her at the crossroad. Now, she can take the high road and say, well, okay, that works too. Or she can take the low road. And while this is all going on, there's another conversation that's going on in your mind about your partner saying, this isn't about the towel. This is about a huge character flaw in my spouse. And she's thinking in her mind, why is he so stubborn? It's just a towel. And he's thinking, why doesn't she trust the way that I do things? It's just a towel. And then things go global in their mind. So she says, you know what? He never listens to the advice I give him. Why doesn't he ever listen to me? And he's thinking, she's always telling me how to do the smallest of tasks. And so she leaves the room, and as she's leaving the room, she brings up the past. You know, I'm right about the towel, like I was right about the lemon of the car that you bought. You must trust me more. And he yells back, right, like the cat that you brought home and sprayed every piece of furniture that we had to have replaced. And the voices in both of their heads is saying, you know I am right. Yep. Now, what do you think is going on here besides two rams hitting their heads together, right? Because it isn't about the towel. It's about wanting to be right. Exactly. And let's be honest here. Doesn't it feel good to be right? Really? I mean, come on now. I know sometimes for me it's like, yeah, that feels good to be right. Now listen up. This is how the scenario will usually follow through. The towel didn't get folded, right? So now you go out and maybe call a friend or get some support from some friends, and you may have told the story just maybe slightly exaggerated in a way to get their support. And then you feel better because someone has just supported you being right. But here's the problem. You just created a little negative mastermind group, people who support your weakness. But let's say someone in your negative mastermind group, maybe they don't want to be negative. Maybe they want to bring you up to a higher perspective, and they say, maybe there's a higher perspective here. If we read a quote from the Course in Miracles, it says, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And your inner thought is going, being right would make me very happy right about now. So let me just put it to you this way. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. What's right in the situation? What is right so that you have peace of mind? What is right so that everyone wins and there is loving and caring for all? And what is right is always the divine idea for the highest good of all concerned. But when we are in a heated argument, do we really want what is right for the highest good of all concerned? No, we don't. We want to be right because we're attached. There is something in you that wants to be right, and it's called pride, or it's the ego part of us, right? It's that ego part of us. You see, when you get the ego out of the way, then, my friends, there is always a divine resolution that comes through, always. And there is always a solution that is greater than what you can ever imagine. But pride, or the ego, is in the way. When it is, there is no divine resolution to be present. You can't see it. Ego, edging God out. Remember, ego means edging God out. And not that you can ever edge God out, because you are made in the image and likeness of God, the very essence of God. But you can edge out the very awareness of God. So when we take a stand in againstness, I'm right, you're wrong, you are edging God out. You are edging out a perfect solution. So what do? What could possibly be the key to finding peace in this way? What is the key to finding a solution? The key to any conflict, my friends, is surrendering. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, if I surrender, I lose my power. And surrender does not obstruct your power. It enhances it. The concept, I believe, that will assist each one of us here today is, and let me put it in the second person so we really hear it, is that when your suffering comes from the attachments, your suffering comes from the demands, the expectations that you make. Now, I want you to just search your mind, your heart. Is there any place in your life where you have an attachment where it must look this way? And if so, attachment can create suffering. It's the second noble truth in the Buddhist tradition. The origin of suffering is attachment. And so when you have an attachment to results, or when you have an attachment to being right, you tend to have a hard time giving up control. However, and this is only a question that you get to ask yourself in your own mind. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand or anything. It's a self-inventory. Truly, have you ever noticed how dissatisfied you are when you're clinging onto an outcome, when you're clinging to having to be right? It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like you are in alignment with higher mind. So you just surrender. And you say, universe, handle this. It's not my will, but thy will be done. It's not my words, but your words. And let God handle any situation. Just give it over completely, emotionally, mentally, to a most generous universe. And let God take over in your life and be set free. My friends, and I really want you to get this, there is a power and there is a presence that is greater than any circumstance and mightier than any condition that you might be going through. So if you find yourself wanting to be right, I want you to do just one thing. Before you go to bed tonight, let go and ask the universe to handle it. What happens? You wake up in the morning and the right idea will be clicking in your head. When you invite the universe to come forth, it gladly grants you the answers that you need. And with that, can I get an amen? Amen. So it is.
I was telling Reverend Cathy, she looks so sharp today, doesn't she? Let's give her some Cathy love, shall we? So like to so many of you, I grew up in a lot of woundology. And from that place of being, I would go through phases that I felt very loved and I felt very unloved. And so I created a pattern within myself that when things were going well, I would go, God loves me, I'm loved. And when things weren't going so well, I would go, God doesn't love me. This is not a good week to apply to heaven. Not going to happen. And so I would find myself in these spaces. And as we know, when we're not connected, then we project that onto other people. They love me not. They love me. I thought they loved me, but look, they're in the corner talking, and I don't know that they love me. Anyway, I was on a spiritual retreat for a weekend, and I was going into a meditation, and I was working with my shamanic teacher, and I wanted to take a question, because taking a question into an imaginary realm is very important. And so I took the question, what do I need that I will feel loved constantly and consistently? And so in this visual, I am taken up on a mountain, and they have a branding iron like that of cattle, which I wish they didn't do, but sticking with the story. So they have branding irons there. And some of the elders, they look like monks. That was the image that I got. And they came over and they branded into the palm of each of my hands a heart. And the message they imparted to me is that you are always the presence of love. You are always loved because you are created in the image and likeness of the divine. And that was such a freeing feeling for me. It doesn't mean in your life that not so loving things, never happen. They do. Or that you run into situations that are, they're uncomfortable. I don't know what it is about us as adults, but we can't handle when anybody's mad at us, even if it's people we don't like. You know what I mean? But it forever shifted It was like there was this healing that happened over me, that I would be able to be gentle with myself regardless of the externals that happen, that I would not like attack myself. You understand that? Are you resonating with me? I wouldn't make it and criticize me. I would say I am in the presence of God, because there is an infinite amount of love that is available, and it is forever giving of itself. And yet, as the Fillmores would tell us, we must take it. So imagine years later that I'm in Peru with a group on a tour, and we're in a shaman shop, and all the memorabilia and, feathers and drums, and and sage, and we didn't do ayahuasca, I'm just saying, but it was a really, really happy place. And BB says, "Look at this," and I walk over. I brought it just in case anyone questioned me. Here's a walking stick with a hand, and guess what's in the middle of it? A branded heart. This is not unique to me, you see. This is our sacred story of how each and every one of us ground in this understanding. Coming up metaphysical at 19, being in unity, I got what people said of a loving person lives in a loving world. A hostile person lives in a hostile an angry person lives in an angry world. Did you ever hear that one? And it made you aware, when you were being rageful in the traffic and stuff. It's like, woo, I'm doing a lot of projecting. But it took me a while in my own evolution when I would read the scripture, love thy neighbor as thyself, because it deepened my awakening to realize that the "as" word was the most important word in the whole sentence. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Say that with me. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And so it called upon me then, with any filter that I was having towards anything or anyone or any community or anything, to really check it and really measure it, to say, what is missing within me that I do not have the capacity to clearly see this? I love the practice of the Balinese people. When something happens or someone robs the local church, they don't immediately run out and get guns and watch and say, we've got to, up our rules and our policies and arrest people and all that. Do you know what they do? You want to? Thank you for asking. You're so beautiful. I really, I always feel privileged being here. Thank you. But what they do is they will come together. They don't immediately become anti-something. They become inner awareness. So if something's stolen in a local church, they won't go, get your weapons, get people out there to guard, create policies, wear uniforms, and we're going to take care of this. They go, no, we haven't been spending enough time in prayer. We haven't been spending enough time in silence. We haven't been spending enough time connecting. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And so it came back home in that relationship and in that awareness. Does that mean that we avoid actions that people do that are not kind or unnecessary? Absolutely not. But we see it from a place of proactivity versus being reactive. Do you understand? We catch ourselves to go, how do I really need to see this from a place of love? It's great sometimes to speak a truth and speak it strong and speak it well. I believe when we don't tell people how we truly feel, we cheat them of a true relationship. We cheat them of what would be helpful to them. Years ago, The man that did our gardening at the community I was at in Florida, he was such a beautiful guy, and he was there every morning, long before many of us, woke up, except Cathy. And he was so great, and I just had such a respect for him. And I got word through the gossip tree that he had stumped out one Sunday and that he was leaving the community. Well, I love confrontation. I do. It does not frighten me at all, because I believe the word means to come in front of something. Yes. To come in front of something. And so I call him up and I go, would you come in? Can we just sit and have tea? I mean, you've been here a lot longer than I've been. This place is very special for you. Could we just talk? And so he comes in. His name was Norm. And he comes in and I go, tell me, what's going on? What do we need to know? Love thy neighbor as thyself. He said, this place is just becoming way too gay. Even hearing that made me feel uncomfortable. People are gay here? And I said, they are? We are? And he said, yeah, we're really becoming way too gay. And I said, tell me why you see that. And he goes, well, 4 Sundays ago, we welcomed a new minister, and he stood up and introduced his partner. So they're obviously gay. He said, now don't get me wrong, I have a granddaughter gay. I don't have an issue about gay. I just don't want us to be all gay. And I said, how boring, nor do I. Who would want that? I get it, I'm on your team. And he said, then the next week, we had a guest speaker come from Connecticut, and he must have said 5 times, and the guy playing the piano, that's my husband. And it really got to me. It was so unnecessary. I said, it made me uncomfortable too. I mean, he came across very insecurely. The point is, I don't need to carry you through all the stories, but it wasn't about, you're wrong, we're right, we wouldn't do that. Didn't happen. It was like, I see your point. We got out of balance. And now we're going to get back in balance. Thank you. And for the remaining 12 years until he died, on many occasions, I would say, is there anything I need to check in about? Is there anything I need to know? Why? Because he was a grown-up, loving his community as himself. He spoke the truth, right? He said it. I'm not talking about nowadays when, people go on tangents and they've had too much to drink and they write things on social to you, or they email you ugly, unkind. I'm not talking about that kind. I'm talking about pure bravery of you matter, we matter. Let's be truthful with each other. So many families miss out on the greater essence of love because someone will not be bodacious or brave enough to say, here's what I'm experiencing. What are you experiencing? Come in front of it. Face it. It's amazing. When I was in early elementary school, I used to believe that 1 + 1 = 3. And of course, did anybody else? 1 + 1 = 3? I'm the only one. Okay, that's fine. I like being original. And I don't know that I ever spoke that out loud, but intuitively, I believe 1 + 1 = 3. But yet, I live long enough to be in mastermind groups, and that's what we teach. 1 person + 1 person equals a third idea, and that's the relationship. And there you have the board, that's 1 person. You have the community, that's 1 person. But together, you have this third idea called Unity of Santa Barbara. And it's so beautiful when you can get into that practice in your relationships. There's one of you and then the other one of you, and you have this third connection that is called the collective of the relationship. And I teach this with every person of Holy Union and wedding. You're not just 2 people. You're a third. Your relationship is the third you. And when you put the love into the relationship instead of the what you agree or don't agree with and all of that, then you have this expansive energy of we are committed to this relationship for the rest of our lives. What needs to happen here? How do we grow from here? Connect with that. It's the same as you are a person and I'm a person, but we are here because we want the best for Unity of Santa Barbara. We're not here because we have our own agenda, because we would go have a private club by ourselves, yes? So we support each other in what is the highest and best for this. It has been amazing, especially in personal relationship, to see that, for people to come together and say, what would be best for this relationship? And discerning and speaking the truth is a very powerful thing. You know, in Unity, we overplay things. I don't want to be judgmental. I don't mean to be negative and non-loving. I don't know when we got that way. You know, I can talk about my car and no one gets offended. I can say my car's high maintenance. You know, my car's expensive. Why can't I say that about somebody in my life? Right? As a statement, not a factual truth. And so it's the learning that we learn from each other when we come from, as a guy said this weekend, not the little a in authenticity, but the capital A in authenticity. That you're willing not to cheat someone from really who you are and all that you are. It's like Kathleen Blake came up to me this morning. She said, oh, I know you and Russ are the criers in our community. Let's be aware. And I went, I'm so grateful you know that about me. It doesn't take much at all. I cry when a bug dies. Okay. We are learning. We're always learning in relationship what matters the most. Armandito would say, God, my life is your gift to me. What I do with my life is my gift to you. Thank you for being here today with us. We're so grateful that you're here. Thank you. Thank you.